The 1990s snack aisle did not feel like a grocery aisle. It felt like a toy store with price tags. At kid height, every shelf shouted in neon, fruit snacks shaped like cartoon characters, cookies with frosting stripes, chips in crinkly bags, juice boxes with tiny straws, and mascots staring back like they knew you personally. So were the snacks actually better, or did the decade turn snack shopping into a childhood event? Before the explosion, the snack aisle was more predictable. You had potato chips, pretzels, crackers, sandwich cookies, candy bars, microwave popcorn, and cereal boxes that mostly stayed in their lanes. The packaging had mascots and bright colors, but the products were still built around familiar flavors and simple choices. Then the 1990s changed the assignment. A snack was no longer just something salty, sweet, or crunchy. It needed a gimmick, a character, a shape, a limited edition, a commercial catchphrase, or a lunchbox status symbol. Companies were not only selling food, they were selling attitude, collectability, and a tiny piece of pop culture you could open after school. The timing was almost unfair. Cable television gave kids more channels, more cartoons, and more commercials aimed directly at them. Saturday morning sold the big new products, then after-school blocks kept repeating the message right when kids were getting hungry. That mattered in the grocery store. Children were not paying for the snacks, but they were standing next to the cart asking for the box they had just seen on television. Supermarkets were expanding, shelves were getting more crowded, and brands needed packaging that could win a decision in a few seconds. The lunchbox turned snacks into social currency. A strange cookie, a neon drink, or a chip with a cartoon tie-in could travel from the aisle to the cafeteria table and advertise itself for free. Movies, sports stars, video games, and animated shows gave companies ready-made worlds to borrow. The 1990s snack aisle worked because every part of kid culture was pointing toward it. In the 90s, the wrapper was not just packaging, it was part of the snack boxes, and bags looked like they had been designed during a sugar rush. Bright colors, chaotic layouts, wild fonts, and mascots with attitude. Flavor names sounded like dares, promising extreme cheese, screaming sour, blazing heat, or some mystery color that barely counted as food. That design did real work. A kid could spot a favorite cereal box or chip bag from across the aisle before tasting anything because the package had already become a signal. It told you whether the snack was goofy, gross, rebellious, sporty, or tied to the cartoon you watched that week. By the time it reached a lunchbox, the packaging was still speaking. Holding the right snack said something about who you were. At school, the lunchbox was where the grocery aisle got judged. Pulling out the right fruit snack could change the table for 5 minutes. Gushers, fruit by the foot, shark bites, Dunkaroos, Doritos, handy snacks, or a juice pouch with a flavor nobody had tried yet could turn lunch into a small event. Kids noticed who had the good chips, who had the weird cookies, and who always seemed to get the limited edition stuff. Trading was part negotiation, part performance. 2 packs of crackers might equal 1 pudding cup. A boring sandwich could be forgiven if the dessert had frosting or a candy dipper. And almost everyone saved the best item for last, like a final reveal. The same rules followed kids after school. Snack bags passed around after practice, sleepover tables covered in chips and soda, and after-school TV paired with whatever survived the pantry. Snacks were not just food. They were proof of taste, luck, and lunchbox status. By the 90s, snack companies were not just selling flavor, they were selling something to do. Cookies came with frosting to dunk into. Cheese crackers came with a little red stick for spreading. Fruit snacks were shaped like sharks, dinosaurs, cartoon characters, and movie monsters. Even candy could change color, stain your tongue blue, or crackle loudly enough that everyone nearby knew what you were eating. The strangest products made the snack feel like a toy. You could peel string cheese, squeeze yogurt from a tube, unroll fruit by the foot, build tiny pizzas, or eat cookies filled with bright cream that looked more like craft supplies than dessert. Drinks got weird too, with neon colors, twist tops, mystery flavors, and bottles that looked designed for a commercial first. The snack aisle learned that kids wanted texture, mess, sound, and a small performance. Once food became entertainment, the next step was obvious. Put famous characters on it. By the middle of the decade, the box was not just packaging. It was a tiny billboard for whatever kids were watching after school, renting on tape, playing on a console, or cheering for on the weekend. A fruit snack could borrow the shapes of a cartoon team. A cereal could promise a movie prize inside. A chip bag could feature athletes, trading cards, sweepstakes codes, or limited flavors tied to a summer blockbuster. Even when the food was ordinary, the wrapper made it feel connected to a world already living in your head. That connection made snack time feel official, like the show had followed you into the kitchen. And then the commercials made the mythology even bigger. Commercials gave these snacks a personality before anyone tasted them. A kid would sneak one bite, the room would explode with cartoon lightning, a mascot would crash through a wall, and suddenly a cookie or chip had its own universe. The language was loud on purpose. Rule-breaking kids, extreme sports cuts, impossible reactions, jingles, catchphrases, and camera angles that made lunchbox food feel like an action scene. For copyright-safe visuals, recreate the energy. Fake brand names, neon packaging, a backyard skateboard jump, a rubber suit mascot bursting into frame, and kids reacting like they just discovered treasure. Then came the magic words: new flavor, limited edition, only for summer. Those phrases made ordinary snacks feel urgent, almost legendary. The ads planted the dream. School lunch made it real. The snack aisle followed kids all the way to the cafeteria. That was where the private excitement became public. Lunchboxes opened like little showcases. Foil pouches, plastic trays, tiny cakes, cheese crackers, fruit snacks, and juice boxes lined up beside sandwiches wrapped in plastic. Kids noticed everything. Someone had the new flavor from the commercial. Someone had the pack with the holographic wrapper.
Someone else had a familiar snack that always got eaten first because it was reliable, not flashy. Then the trading started. Cookies for chips, a pudding cup for fruit snacks, two boring items for one rare prize. If the table agreed it was worth it, the best snack was often saved for last, sitting there like a trophy while everyone watched. In the cafeteria, packaging, commercials, and status all collided. Modern snacks feel different because the aisle is built under different pressures. Brands now think harder about sugar, dyes, allergens, school rules, and parents reading labels in the store. Packaging is cleaner, characters are used more carefully, and wild limited-time experiments are riskier when every product can be criticized online within hours. A lot of the strangest snacks also disappeared because they were expensive to make, sold unevenly, or belonged to a short trend. What survived often became safer, simpler, and easier to explain on a shelf. Kids still get excited about snacks, but the discovery point has moved. A new drink might blow up on TikTok before anyone sees it in person. Candy gets reviewed on YouTube. Chips arrive through delivery apps. The aisle is no longer the whole adventure. So, were 90s snacks actually better? Some of them, yes. Brands were willing to make food look like toys. Drinks with floating bits, cereal shaped like cartoon props, candy that changed color, chips dusted in flavors that sounded like dares. That kind of weirdness made the aisle feel alive. But not every legend deserves a comeback. Some snacks were chalky, too sweet, strangely waxy, or exciting for exactly 3 bites. A lot of them tasted better in memory because they came with the right setting.
After-school cartoons, cafeteria trades, sleepovers, sports practice, or finally convincing your parents to buy the box you had been staring at for weeks. The flavor mattered, but the memory did most of the work. That is the discontinued snack effect. Once something disappears, people stop comparing it to real food and start comparing it to a moment in their life. Scarcity turns an ordinary cookie, soda, or fruit snack into proof that the past had better ideas. You can see it every time a discontinued snack starts trending again. Someone remembers a cereal, a soda, or a neon-colored yogurt, and suddenly the internet turns into a missing persons board for groceries. People describe the wrapper from memory. They argue about the exact flavor. The snack becomes harder to verify, which makes the memory feel more important. That is what separates a regular product from a legendary one. If it stayed on shelves forever, people could taste it again and judge it honestly. Once it vanishes, there is no final bite to correct the myth. Almost everyone has one. A cookie from a school lunch, a chip flavor from a summer trip, a drink from a gas station cooler. Maybe it was not amazing. Maybe it was just there at the exact age when everything felt bigger. So the thing people want back is not only the snack, it is the version of life that came with it. That is what we actually miss. Walking beside the cart, asking for one thing, hoping it made the basket, and opening it later like a prize. The aisle felt better because every package promised a tiny adventure. Thanks for watching. Comment the 90s snack that still lives rent-free in your memory.